And now here is Paul Stone. He's the man in charge of the entire corporation. And Colonial Metals Group is. How would you describe your company, first of all, Paul?
We're built of people that are like-minded, believe in the conservative value system, Judeo-Christian, honor principles that are higher than their wants or needs, and listen. They listen to the folks we're speaking with. We get, where these folks are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and up. They help build this country. They're quite dismayed about how things are today. And so we're in tune and in touch with that. It's never about us. It's always about listening to the folks that are in a bit of anguish, wondering, can it get worse? Is it going to get really ugly out there? Should I do something about it now? What can I do? How does that work? We're here to listen and guide.
Well, let's take that up, because the context right now is all important. I've never seen a moment in my career in which there's been greater instability. There has been greater efforts at destabilizing on the part of the government itself. So give us your sense of where we are politically and economically. And let's start with politically, because we've got a lot to assimilate in order to understand what the economics and the finances of it really are.
I think the quickest way I could sum that perception up from how I've viewed things, and certainly doesn't make me an authority on all things or that my perception is correct, but if you were in New York City or Los Angeles or San Francisco and a tsunami was headed, 100-foot wave was headed at either one of those cities, what would be the point of ringing the tsunami alarm bell system? Where would anyone go? They'd all just crash into the streets and start beating each other up because they can't get out of harm's way. I think that the government mismanagement over many decades now of our finances and the principles that keep a financial system's integrity intact have been woefully mismanaged, in fact, maybe even sacrificed, to continue to try this fruitless attempt at printing money to get us out of trouble, which just creates more trouble. It's kind of like the more they create their solution in printed money creates a stronger headwind against growth. And eventually that weight crushes the system itself when we look back at reserve currency countries that rose and fell before us.
It's really remarkable, because if we look at the two basic types of economic policy, financial policy, there's fiscal policy and there's monetary policy. The Fed leading the latter, the federal government, taking advantage of the former. Let me just say, the federal government right now, we're talking about $6 trillion budgets. We are going further in debt by every 100 days, $1 trillion.
Right.
We've never seen anything approaching this level of spending and debt and deficit. The influence that has on, for example, gold and the decision to invest in gold.
Well, I would say that, in my opinion, the easiest way to look at precious metals is that it's a location for money. Like, it literally has now taken physical form. And the simplest approach to analyzing one's options would be in what you want to marry up to, what dependencies that you don't control that impact the integrity, the access, and the value of your savings. By design, there's 4 places for your money. There's cash in a safe at home, there's real estate, there's in the financial world, and there's the vault. And how you get into the vault is this conversion from a fiat currency, an electronically listed, right? It doesn't even physically really exist that much anymore in the way of cash. You convert that into hard currency, which comes from the earth. It can't be printed. The government can't make it in a lab. So it continues to maintain this integrity and principle. Before you start wondering about gold and silver going higher, it's a location for money. Money has been relocated away from known risks and threats and scary historical precedent into a place that has other history, that it's always maintained some kind of great value and certainly has been money or backed the money in all of human history up until 1971. So
And
that's how I first look at precious metals.
well, and I think that's a correct way to look at it uh, in terms of in terms of economics, but also monetary policy. I have never seen a Federal Reserve, and I want to double check myself on this. Believe I've never seen a Federal Reserve this wantonly disregard their responsibilities to price stability and to simply put itself in the position of spending out more money to stimulate the economy and doing so wantonly. It's extraordinary that a lawyer turned Fed chairman by the name of Jerome Powell has any reason in the world to think he knows what he's doing right now, and he doesn't seem to be willing to be listening to the business community, to Wall Street, and it's a very difficult moment because that Fed policy right now, to me, is out of control.
And I would submit, Lou, that he does know what he's doing, and he also knows he has two choices, and one is untenable. The two choices are that you get real. When you asked earlier, what would you say about the political situation in our country? With the tsunami idea, it's me saying that they can't tell us the truth. The political system, the elected side to all of that, can't come to the podium and tell the American people the truth. $34 trillion in debt is not debt. Debt assumes that the person borrowing will do some repaying of that debt. You can't repay $34 trillion in debt. What it really is $34 trillion in bills that the country's economy could not produce enough revenue to pay. So those bills have to be paid with printed money issued onto an Excel spreadsheet these days. They're not printing hundreds back in some factory and mailing it to people. They're just issuing that money onto an Excel spreadsheet, and out into the financial world it goes. So Chairman Powell must know what he's doing. He's doing the best he can to continue this woefully inept, failing policy of paying bills with artificial money because the economy doesn't produce enough revenue to do that. His other choice is to come to the podium and just level with everyone and say, folks have decided to cease this charade from continuing on. We will not print another dollar. Things are going to go bankrupt. Things are going to become extraordinarily painful out there on Main Street, from Main Street to Wall Street. From the lowest abode in America to the highest skyscraper's top floor office. Woefully, very painful. And that's just not something anyone has the guts to do. We're so far down the road. It would have been nice had that been done maybe in the 80s or the 90s. But once the baby boomers retire in 97, we have this black hole in our economy where we suddenly don't have enough revenue to cover the cost to run the show of America Incorporated. And one quick just set of numbers, Lou, is when Social Security was created, there were 44 workers for every retiree. Today, there's 3. So you're literally asking a horse that used to just pull a wagon to pull a city. It's just, that's where this went off the rails. 1997 is where it began. Debt was $4 trillion. The dollar was worth 56 cents in the year 2000. Today, debt, if you want to keep calling that, is $34 trillion. And yes, a new $1 trillion in debt every 100 days. You say you can't understand the pace that this is quickening and the degree that it's gotten so terrible. Wait till next year. Wait till 6 months from now. It's an ongoing snowball effect. It can't be stopped unless Chairman Powell or Biden or someone in power just came to the podium and said, enough. We're going to face reality. We're going to tighten our belts. We're going to act like every levee and every dam just broke, and everyone needs to come together and figure this out as Americans. And it would be a great thing for people in a way, because we would get our country back.
Well, there is that. And there's also, when you say you think he's doing it quite intentionally, that he's quite aware of what he's doing. I have to say, if he does, that makes him the most dishonest man in America, because what he is really doing, to me, it seems, is driving a policy that is sure to destroy every possible system of value within our economy. And this can't be permitted to go on. He is right now following I believe, without any question, the dicta of the Biden regime. And he is doing as they want because he has an election 5 months away from us. And this, I think, is part of to me, the evil aspect of what this Fed is doing. The Fed is not being, as you say, forthright in any fashion, but it's been a long time since they were. You have to go back to Paul Volcker to find that kind of honesty.
Yes, sir. You're right. And Greenspan, Bernanke, Yellen, and Powell are all just following this same losing proposition, which is maybe someone will figure something out. Maybe there's a way we can create revenue in ways we aren't creating revenue today. So for the moment, we'll just print the money.
Well, let's talk about value, and let's talk about gold in the midst of all of this, because there's Bitcoin. We're watching Bitcoin become a popular play for some. I can't comprehend it to save me, but the reality is that some do. Compare, if you would, Bitcoin to gold, and why gold is the superior choice for those who want to have certainty about their financial future.
Sure. They have a commonality, and that is they aren't the US dollar. They aren't issued by a federal entity. They're scarce and limited in their availability. When you think about Bitcoin, there's 21 million Bitcoin. Imagine if I had an orchard that grew specific apples that cured every form of cancer, and there was only 21 million apples in the orchard. How much would my apple be worth? $70,000. So when we have this incredible global demand for something new and shiny and sexy, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, even the name is pretty attractive and draws attention. That scarcity causes for something to have a value above its weight. The dollar was once worth 100 cents. Today it's worth 2.7 cents. So it has a value well beneath its weight. Where gold and silver differ from Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptos is the dependency. So I'll have to have this work to get access to my crypto money. I'll have to have access through the federally regulated and owned airwaves and phone lines to be able to get to that money. When my money's in precious metals, it's at my elbow, right? It's in a depository, which has nothing to do with any financial entity. It's a glorified public storage center in a nondescript building, and inside and outside are guys and gals with guns and all the security measures you can think of. But they're just standing over my money. They aren't standing between me and my money at a depository. And if you had to, you'd ride a horse there to get your gold and silver. So when you look at what do you want, what points of failure, right? The James Webb telescope had 341 points of failure where if anything went wrong, the whole mission was junk. So when you want to think about how many points of failure do you want between you and your money, gold and silver really doesn't have any. It's worldwide recognized for what it is. And if Dennis Quaid's prediction of a solar flare eliminating electrical circuitry here on the earth at some point soon, gold and silver doesn't need electricity to transact for goods and services at the merchant's countertop. Bitcoin and Ethereum do.
Those are great points. And I have to believe a lot of people are saying, wait a minute about that Bitcoin. Let me go to this question. You've got a lot of experience selling gold and taking care of customers' needs. So what is the broad generalization of a portfolio or a customer and what they need? Give us a profile and how much money is involved typically in a transaction, if you would.
Oh, I would say, typical average transaction in our industry is around $100,000. People move something they're comfortable with, might be 10, 20, 30% of their portfolio to precious metals to test drive the transaction, the relationship with us at Colonial Metals Group. And once their confidence rises, because in the mind of most retirees, if not all of them, it's how do I make sure my retirement savings stays mine and floats downstream to my heirs?
Right.
That's where the location of one's savings helps, that simple perspective. So if it's in metal money, kind of off the electrical grid, if you will, then people think, well, why wouldn't I want all of my money to be safe? You know, if my money was in a home downriver from a dam and the seismologists come and say the dam's going to burst someday, we can't fix it, it's leaking beneath. I know you can't tell, but it's going to fall over at some point. You want to relocate your savings upriver, and you want to eliminate that dependency and the treachery by having your money potentially crushed someday by something falling over in your financial world. So most folks want to have all their money safe. They start wherever they're comfortable. It might be a dollar amount, it might be a percentage. We walk them through the process. Most folks have money saved in an IRA, 401k, some kind of retirement account. We do the paperwork for you. These custodians we work with have been around for a long, long, long time. And one of the beautiful benefits of that type of an account is you're the owner of everything in the account. And you can own physical things that are physical, like real estate, mineral rights. I've heard of clients trading cattle in and out of their self-directed IRAs, but focused on the matter at hand, solving this financial riddle: precious metals, physical gold and silver inside your retirement account.
You're listening to the leader of Colonial Metals Group, colonialmetalsgroup.com /Dobbs. Go there, check them out. And I think you're going to find a terrific organization ready to respond to your questions, your concerns, and to help you in these uncertain times. Paul, I want to give you an opportunity for concluding thoughts here as we wrap up. I want to say, first of all, pleasure talking with you. Secondly, I want to say thanks for being an important sponsor of our podcast, and we appreciate it greatly. Give us your thoughts as we wrap up here.
Lou, and I just want to say we love you, and we love that you're kicking off this show and continuing to speak to people that adore you and have for decades. We're just honored to be a part of Lou Dobbs. We're very grateful for this. In closing, I suppose I would just like to mention that it isn't our fault. It isn't the American people's fault. There's a document inside of Washington that today is just living in a museum called the Constitution that has been non-respected for a long, long time. And the leaders of our financial choice making and our rights and our privacy have gone off the rails many decades ago. It's just now gotten to such a hot, contentious level. People are really, checking in and paying attention and wondering, how the hell did we get here? It's not the American people's fault. You were raising kids. You were dealing with obstacles and challenges. Life on Earth isn't easy. It's not fair most of the time. So I want folks to understand that they may not be able to change the trajectory of Washington or Wall Street. You may not be able to change the leadership and how things are being decided these days, but you can change the future for your financial autonomy in securing that. Because then if things do go horribly wrong, and this math story says that they will, human history says that they will, you won't be standing in the line for government cheese.
Well, Paul, I think a terrific message, and we appreciate you being with us. I've enjoyed our conversation. I'd like you to come back from time to time and update us and continue the conversation around colonialmetalsgroup.com. Thanks so much.
We love that. Thank you, Lou. Great to be here.
Good to have you.